Hey folks, Mr. Justin here with Secret Weapon Miniatures, and a look at the Creeping Infection bases. As with the other How to Paint Bases videos, I have already put down the base coat for these. In one case I've got a purple, in the other a brown, and the other a flesh tone, to give you the finished pieces you saw at the beginning. First thing I'm going to do, since I'm keeping all of these as simple as possible, is actually apply a little dry brush to each of them. Find my big brush here. Alright, got a little bit of pink, bright pink for the red one, and just very gently pull out some of that texture, give me a variegated surface to work with. And I will do a little more here around the edges, of course, so I can create some visual interest over here. Dry that one off, clean that paint off my palette. And for the brown, of course, I'm coming in with a little bit of, oop, that's the old mud. Where's my light dirt? There's my light dust. And of course, at least for the dirt colors, I am using Secret Weapon paints. Combination of Secret Weapon and Reaper paints here, as usual for me. Alright, so this is my light dust. Particularly everywhere that the surface is cracked. Give that dry mud look. Of course, you guys know what these look like finished before I do. Alright, and last but not least, for the flesh, I'm actually going to get a little bit of an off-white. P3 Menoth White highlight here. My all-time favorite white highlights. And dry brush right over this. Again, just to make some of the texture pop. See, in this case, I'm really not being delicate. Alright. Then I'm going to start playing with the Secret Weapon washes here. So, I am going to start with algae. As always, whenever I'm using the Secret Weapon washes, a big shout out to Lester Bursley for bringing these into the world in the first place and giving us permission to bottle them. I was not going to continue painting the world without these. When he stopped making them, I was still doing commissioned armies all the time. And there was no way that was going to happen without these. Alright, I've got a big crummy brush here, and I'm actually just going to get this wet, a little stiff, and stipple in some of that algae around here. And of course, because the washes are a heavy body, they'll treat it like a glaze, so I can actually push some color around right here on the base. And let's see, what else have I got here? I've got some purple wash. Let's put a drop of that right over here by these guys, so it'll hold it in place. Boom. And let's stipple that around. Ooh, I like that. Leave it right there where the purple is. Or where the critters are. That's some drying blood. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and get the drying blood right here in all these recesses. Really just press that around to make sure it stays in there. We'll drop over here. More of the algae. I like how that algae is working out. Alright, this one's still a little too wet for this. I'm starting to remove color now too, so I'm going to set it aside. Go work on the dirt. Easy peasy. And then we get this one. And for this one, not surprised, I'm actually going to start off with a bit of sewer water. Shake that up very well, make sure it's not plugged. There we go. And in this case, I'm giving it a wash over the base, pretty much the whole surface. I'll blend in some other colors here, but for the moment, I just want to get that sewer water everywhere. If I get a little extra, like I did, it's fine. I can actually clean some of that off. Remove some of the excess just by grabbing a tissue. Doing that. And of course now I want to add a little bit of that back. Create some more contrast. At the moment it's a little too uniform for my taste. The result of wicking it away with that towel. Tissue. And at that point, not bad, but I'm going to come back and hit the center part, of course, with drying blood, where all these little gribbly guys are. I'm going to spread that around carefully, right around that whole area here. And I'm going to bring it out slightly onto the area around that to discolor this. Whole area. Everywhere there's the little critters. Just a little discoloration around that whole spot. And since that one's going to be too wet to work on for a minute, I'm going to set that one aside. Same deal here for the flesh one. I'm going to have a happy accident right there on the corner apparently. So let's see what happens with that. So I didn't mean to get it over here. Oh, that's going to be just fine. We'll wind up using that as a whole base cover now. It was not my intention, but I like the way that worked out. So here we go. That way I can add a little life to that color first. I'm also going to come in and add some green, since it's going to be flesh. Always green in your flesh, even if we're not talking about plagues or infections, creeping or otherwise. So again, I'm just stippling in the wash, removing a bit, and I will come back to algae. That's through wire. Gotta make sure that gets closed. And gotta make sure that drying blood gets closed, and that algae is right here. And I'll do what I did on the purple one. That's add it right over the fungus. I don't need to come in and add a little extra color, obviously, to the fungus when I wrap this one up. Let's see if we can go back to the purple one. Yep. Alright, it looks like all three of these, because I'm applying the washes fairly heavy-handed, are all still too wet to work on, so we're going to take a little break and come back. And I'm back. At this point, again, we have the base coat, wash, and a dry brush. As simple as can be for our three styles of creeping infection so far. And so now I'm going to start detailing these up a little more. And I'm going to do that first by adding a bit more color to the wormy guys. And this is just my Menoth white highlight again. Any white will do. Any off-white. Maggoty white is a good one too. That's more of a green white. And I'm aiming to mostly hit the sections one at a time instead of trying to dry brush it on. Also ensures I get a nice texture on the little worms, a little definition. Same thing, just on the other bases. This section it's going to be a little harder, so I don't want to take the time to be crazy delicate in here. It's going to be a little messier, but not a lot. But I don't want to take the time it would take to be super delicate and make sure that I'm only painting on the one worm at a time here. If I get a little overpaint on one of them, that's fine. I can correct that later with some wash, some gore effect, that kind of thing. The goal with these is to do it fairly quickly. You can, of course, just dry brush this. And I'll do that on that last batch over there on the pink one. That way we can compare the difference too here between them. So these two are finished, at least for the moment. Move on to the next bit. And yeah, let me go ahead and dry brush the last set here. A bit more Meneth white on my brush. Wipe most of that off on my sock. And still using the side of my brush. Lots of small layers. There's no rush. Take your time. And for the large area, you see it doesn't do too bad. But for those small areas, it's just easier to hit them with a single brush, a small brush, so that you don't have all the white on areas you don't want it. Alright, let's see. I'm also going to put a bit of the green on these pieces here. A little fungus or chimneys or whatever they are. Your particular story. Let's see, a little green, wet brush. Here we go. Just this time I have the brush very damp. Did get off a fair bit of the moisture, a fair bit of the water. But in this case, yeah, I'm just taking that color and pulling it down into the area around it. Water will help it fade into place. Rinsing my brush. Very wet now, getting off a lot of that moisture. And again, starting to pull that into the area around it. You can also see it's creating that variegated look on the fungus for me. That I want. Oh, I missed a wormy maggot guy there too. Have to do something about that. So here is the fleshy one at this point. Here is the purple. And here is the brown. And one more time, I'm going to let these dry and come back and do some pigments on them. So stay tuned. Here we go. Alright, so I have hit these with a thin coat of matte varnish, and I've gone ahead and made some pigment washes, which I'm conveniently keeping off screen so that you don't get to see them. It's just the kind of guy, and take that. So I'm using a little yellow earth here on that earth base. Of course, I'm just going to put it here and there. I want to use the thin portions of this.
Hey.
Define some areas here. Some of those recesses too. Nice. And I'm going to switch over here to green earth. Back up. Run that right in over the rest. And a bit of violet. I'll put that on screen again for you. Really laying the violet heavy around the wormy space, of course. I want that to pop. Still blending it in here and there to the other sections as well. Alright, I'm going to set that one aside. I'm actually going to keep the violet out and use that on our purple one here. That section out. You can see I got it a little heavy there. That's fine, but it's not what I want right now. I want nice thin pigment so that I can get that into the recesses and really help the texture on this piece pop. I really love the texture on these bases. So I really want to let that stand out. Make that really visible. But let's see, let's add a little bit of yellow, dark yellow. Let's add some of the opposing color here to really make it pop. Alright, and we'll let that one dry. Which brings us back to alright. In this case I have a little faded green and a bit of sewage muck that I'll be applying. That's in these areas here to really add that dry pigment quality to all of this. You'll see the difference between the pigment and the pigment wash and the acrylic wash very, very quickly. Really nothing like pigments. There are a lot of wonderful weathering effects you can get with just paint alone, acrylic paint alone, certainly. But that dry finish from pigments is really unique to the dry pigment applications, or rather, to powdered pigment application. Since we've made it a wash here, you can't exactly call it dry pigment, can you? Hitting some of the recessed cavities there. Got the sewage muck. really heavy and letting it flow out where it wants to be in the recesses. Alright, and that one is dry. So let's go back and look at what we've done so far, see where these are at. So here is the pigment on the dirt one. You can see it's still a bit wet in here. You see a bit of the shine. You definitely see the nasty colors we're getting in here. But I want to add a bit more of the yellow, so I'm actually going to take some of this dark yellow that I was just using. I want to get a little more vibrancy through this little canyon here. Just kind of stippling that around all through this little canyon. I'll bring that a little this way too. To that recess. Alright, let's take a look at the second one. Much more dry too. Just a little wet. Really see it in there. But I'm really happy with how the contrast and the blended color have really started to work together here. I'm actually going to come in with the sewage muck right there. Some of that bright green. Right through here. And of course, if I'm going to do that, might as well come in with a light green. Add some additional vibrancy. This will be the super psychedelic base color set. It's finished. Even putting the pigment inside the chimneys here so they'll have that nice dry pigment quality thing when it's finished. Which I will do on the last one. Let's look at the third one here again. Alright, so it's still damp. I'm not going to wipe any off yet, but I will wipe off some of that pigment. I say that, let's see what happens now. Alright, yeah, it's still not ready. And I'm going to add some yellow to these chimneys. Now while that's drying this time, I'm going to get a little funky since these areas are safe. What I'm going to go ahead and do on this one here is apply a drop of the realistic water. Got one of the big bottles handy from my snow set. I'm going to just go drop. Drop. And I'm going to take a bit of the Super Up and Wash baby poop. Put a drop right on top of that. So, you can see the realistic water floating on top of the little worms, and the wash really floating on top of that. So I'm just going to start brushing all of that out and slowly pulling the wash into it. Take care of that bubble. Actually, I'm not that worried about the bubble staying because they make a neat effect, even if it's a happy accident. Peeling away or pulling away some of the excess. Got a bit more in there than I would like. Pulling this around onto the area and the ground around it, of course, not just into the recess. It'll have the shine, if not all of the color. Just kind of pulling that in a bit. There we go. So that will eventually dry. not much pullback. It'll take about 24 hours to dry, and I'll have a nice shiny oozy spot right there. Of course, now we're going to do the same on this one. First I'll check the pigment here. Grabbing a Q-tip. Alright, not really coming up. Let's see if I can get some off of there with the water. There we go. Just blending that in a little bit better by fading it off a bit. Alright, so in this case we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to get the realistic water here. 1, 2 drops. And a drop of the Secret Up and Wash. Oop, that's ruby. We don't want ruby. Leave it to me to lose the red wash I'm looking for. There we go, drying blood. So I'm taking drying blood in this case. I'm going to put a drop right on top of. Ooh, well, it's going to miss. That's fine. Blend that in. Bring that off of the ground and into the wormy area. Just like I did on the other one, I'll go ahead and stipple it into the area around it as well. Alright, and I'm not going to take off any of the excess there because that's actually exactly how I want it. I want these worms just to be visible under that. There, it's going to create a nice effect for us. And of course the chimneys will dry with the dry powdery look. You can start to see it here on the green. We're going to go ahead and let everything dry and come back and look at it again. Here we go. Alright, and here are the 3 finished bases. Of course, at this point, everything is dry, and the only thing I did was come in and put the black ring around the edges. So I know you guys have seen the photo at the beginning, but here's a better video look at the texture. Like I said, I love the texture on these. And that nice little recess there full of shiny brown filth. On our pink guy here with the blood. Well, you can see I got a blackened fingerprint on one of the worms there. And there's also that nice dry powdery look inside the fungus. And last but not least, our purple one with a nice dry green look on the inside of that fungus. And all that wonderful dry powdery look around each of the worms here. And again, I really love the texture of these bases. Did a great job on that. Very pleased. And that's it. This is the creeping infection baseline. And as always, thank you for watching. Happy hobbying. And if there's anything you'd like to see covered, drop a note to Mr. Justin at SecretWeaponMiniatures.com and we'll make it happen.